Hello, good day guys, welcome back. This is your DIY assistant. In today's very video edition here, I'm going to be teaching you guys tricks and tips on how to fix your car. You might want to save this very video because you are constantly going to be referring to this very video, because I'm going to be making sure I pack this video loaded with a lot of tips and tricks I've learned over 10 years fixing different car make and model, the most common problem that brings car owners back to garage. So if you follow these various steps strictly, you're going to be eliminating all the trips you're going to be making to mechanic shops and saving all that money. So without wasting your time, let's get started. The first we're going to be starting with here is the AC system. One of the common problems that you're going to be encountering with your car AC system is the system is not functioning correctly. And one of the common problems you're going to be noticing is that it's not cooling as it should. So the first thing first, when you on up your AC system, to ensure a maximum performance, which I'm going to be talking about in the next video, there is a right setting for it. But however, for these very tips today, you need to open your glove compartment. As for this very car here, you want to pinch down the two side, pinch on this side and pinch on this side. When you pinch on that side, you be having, let me pause and show you. Okay, now you can see I pinch and pull it down a little bit down, and if you go down here, there are a hinge that hold it in place over here. So you want to be careful with that very hinge somewhere here, not to spoil it. You can pull this up a little bit. Some are very springable, and you just detach it. Now this goes down. When it goes down here, this is one of the major causes why your car AC is not blowing cold as it should, which is the pulling filter. So you want to grab one side here and grab another side here. It has two sides, so sometimes you need to press it, as you can see right now. The core purpose of this is just for you to clean the air filter, because when the air filter get clogged up, like you can see here, this one is clean. I just dusted it some moments ago. When it gets clogged up, it doesn't allow a sufficient cool air coming out of the vents, and that is going to be leading you to mechanic. Now the second part of that very aspect is for you to open your hood. You need to top off the refrigerant by yourself. It is relatively quite simple. If you go over here to this front side of the vehicle here, I missed that. To open it, there is often a latch somewhere around here, so you can shift it here and you open it. When you open it, you locate the service port for the AC. This is the high side and this is the low side, and the sticker which shows you how many grams of refrigerant that should be inside your car is here, and you put just about that very amount into here through this very line here. There is a video online on how to be able to charge up your AC refrigerant, so you can top it off. The best levels for your AC in your car is going to be, you're going to be having a low side to be around 30 to 40, while on the high side is going to be between 200 and 220, depending on the car make and model. And this is going to keep you away from mechanic for a long time. However, if you notice any spot of oil within the side before topping the refrigerant, that shows that oil is also leaking. So you need to find that leak and fix it, because if you don't fix it, that's going to be leading to damaging the compressor. That's the reason why this very car is here in the first place. Now that we're done on the AC aspect, the common problems, we dive into the too much fuel consumption. Most cause of too much fuel consumption is going to be coming from here. And not just only too much fuel consumption, when your car runs more on fuel, it doesn't run correctly, it affects the engine. So the top common cause is a clogged filter. You can open the filter. If it is screwed, you need to remove the screws here and dust off the air filter. Like you can see here, they disconnect the mass airflow sensor from this one. You can reconnect it back if anything is disconnected there, and look out for cracks. Like you can see here, there is a crack here. So this car, there's crack in this very side here, which is going to be allowing unmetered air. That's the reason why these people remove this very mass airflow sensor, which is going to be making the engine to run very terribly. So make sure that this, if you have a crack here, replace it, because that's going to be leading to engine catastrophic failure. Dust the air filter, replace a cracked any side of it, inspect this side here for the air intake and fix it if there is crack. You also want to flush this throttle body to avoid any contaminant that is there, because it's going to be making your car to rough idle. Aside that, you want to lose out the ignition coil after 30,000 miles and replace 30 to 40,000 miles and replace the spark plug, because that helps the engine to perform better. That's on the performance side. And on the fuel consumption side, the next side you also want to go into is to check your brake fluid. This is your brake fluid. You can often anti-clockwise and you open it and you top it off. There is a mark somewhere here. There is a maximum, and you can see max here, and you can see minimum there. So don't overfill it above this very maximum, because that is actually what caters for how effective your brake is going to be. We'll get on that later. The next part we're going to be going here is checking some other fluid, like the transmission fluid, some of the transmission system, like this one here for this very Honda. This is the dipstick, and make sure that it is in a very good condition. It's not looking burnt. This one is already looking burnt, though it depends on the kind of transmission fluid that is in your system. If it's in the type of a CVT transmission fluid, it's not going to be showing this type of color, so it's going to be green, and or ox blood, depends on. But you want to make sure that you check the fluid and make sure that it is not low than it should. How do you check the fluid? I want to go ahead and show you. You want to first of all start the car. When you start up the car, you want to engage the handbrake, then shift the car from park, reverse to neutral, park, reverse to neutral, and return it back to park. And that is when you can come over here to check, to remove this dipstick here. If it is below the 2 dots which you can see there, then it means you need to be refilled, you need to be topped off. Then that's also when you're talking about fluid, you want to check your transmission, your engine oil, and this is the dipstick. So if you check the dipstick, it is best often recommended to check it first in the morning before starting it, and make sure that it doesn't get above that very dot right there that you can see right here. On this one, it is slightly above the dots right there. If it is above, it's going to be coming to clog up your catalytic converter, which is going to actually make the car to lack power and create a lot of engine problems. So you want to make sure that you don't overfill it. However, there's another thing again you want to check. If you are in a winter environment, this very topic here is really important. If you're in a winter environment, you can use 0 watt 20, but if you're living in somewhere in Africa where there is no winter, you want to use more thicker oil weight to save the life of your engine. Then replace the oil more frequent. Let's say like 3,000 miles, you replace it 3,000 miles every 3,000 miles. If you are using 20 W50, it is most recommended for Africa. Don't use this because it is too lighter and it's going to create a lot of problem with your engine, which is going to be leading to engine replacement, which is expensive repairs. Now for the transmission, if you don't top it off, that's going to be leading to more transmission failure, and that is why you don't even want to allow the transmission fluid to go below that. Now we also want to go into some other part. If your car has reached up to 30,000 miles, you want to uninstall this. This is what they call the EGR valve, and clean it up, because if it gets clogged, you start having a lot of problem with rough idle and underperformance. And also this EGR valve, when you're talking about fuel consumption, helps you to save a lot of fuel. Want to go into system overheating. Overheating can create a lot of damages on your car. So the best way to prevent your car from overheating is making sure the radiator is supposed to be here, but I take it out into the trunk area. Make sure that the fluid did not drop below the expected range. The radiator coolant is expected to be replaced every year to avoid contaminant rust that can cause problem within the engine. And also you want to check the radiator fans and make sure that they are in good conditions. In checking the radiator fans, make sure that the radiators are not clogged. If it is clogged, then you're going to be needing to replace them or flush it. There is a way to flush a radiator to not to damage the fins. And also at every 100,000 miles at least or so, you want to replace this thermostat. There is a thermostat somewhere around here. 100 to 150,000 miles, you want to replace that thermostat. But most of the time, for very effective one, 100k mile, if you have driven your car for 100k mile, then you need to replace this thermostat, because when it's tucked close, when it's defective, it's going to create overheating on the engine, which can actually lead to blown top cylinder head gasket or engine failure, depending on the car make and model. You also need to inspect this fuse box. This fuse box is very important because this fuse box here caters for everything that is in the engine compartment. So if you are noticing some sort of a burnt relay on any part here, that's why it is good to check the fuse box. Then you want to make sure that you get exactly the same type and replace it, because doing so is going to save your car from intermittent shutdown when you're driving on the road. Unexpectedly, you start seeing your car start stalling and all that. Now, while we are still on the engine bay, it is very pertinent to check the drive belt. The drive belt is very critical. This one is still very fresh. If you start noticing any crack on this very drive belt, then that's a call to concern that you need to replace it soon, because if it snaps for some car, that's what actually connects your alternator and water pump for some cars. So if it snaps, it's not only that it's going to stop you on the road by allowing the battery power to be discharged, but it also going to cause overheating. For most Toyota models, let me lecture you properly. When this very serpentine belt cuts, it creates more damage than the actual cause that this is. So you don't want to allow that to happen. And let me go ahead to explain further what's going to happen in most Toyota model when this very serpentine belt cuts. The first thing first is it's going to shut down your car on the road by allowing the car to use up the juice that's on the battery. Then the second phase is that quickly overheat is going to heat up your car. When overheat comes, it doesn't just blow up the top cylinder head gasket. That's just the tip on the iceberg. There is something very much more. It goes ahead to destroy the ignition coils. That is more expensive repair than just replacing the top cylinder head gasket. So a top cylinder head gasket replacement is a major engine repair. Now, this is where it gets more interesting. For most Toyota models, most of their car cannot handle overheating, especially the older model like Corolla, Matrix, Camry, models with 2.4 liters engine that start from 2003 to down to 2006. So if those engines overheat, you are replacing the engine. I repeat, you are replacing the engine on Corolla or Matrix or that Camry model. And for some other models of Camrys, they don't go well with overheating. Any little thing, the top cylinder head gasket is blown, and that's going to be landing you into a serious problem. So in order to avoid it, don't forget what I said. Do not allow the coolant level to drop. And in checking this fuse box, you ensure that the relays are in good condition, because most causes why the Toyota fans are not working the relays, because when the relay goes bad or the coolant level drop below, this coolant temperature sensor is not going to report to the instrument cluster. You're going to be watching it, and it's going to be watching you. Stay right there in the middle, because it's not having a contact with the coolant inside to report the amount of heat that is present in this very coolant here. It's going to stuck right there, and your engine is going to overheat and cause a major engine failure, which is going to drain you really much on a cost of repairs. Now, extra tip on engine performance before we leave the engine bay. It is pertinent sometimes if you have a car or Honda car that have attained up to 100,000 miles, you might want to lose out these very 4 bolts here. This is a lifesaver, because Honda cars are known that each time this catalytic converter for any reason get clogged up, you start having engine loss of power. This is the most cost of engine loss of power. So you lose out this 4 bolt here, and drag this a little bit forward and take a look at the catalytic converter. If it's blocked, then there lies a problem why your Honda is lacking power. And there is a simple solution which I'm going to be teaching you guys on this very channel on how to solve that problem to avoid a messy situation. Next, we go over to the inspecting the brake pads and possibly replacing the brake pad. Now, if you take a look at here, some cars you might be able to see that the distance between the brake pad and the brake pad plate is just very little. So this brake pad needs a replacement. Why? Because if you don't replace it on time, it's going to damage the rotor, and that's going to be expensive repairs. So you want to make sure that you replace the brake pad on time to avoid causing more damage to your cars. While we are still on tires, it is also pertinent that remember to rotate your tires. There is actually the right way to replace it, rotate the tires. Rotating the tires help your car to run better and save you on cost of replacing tires. Now, in replacing tires, that is also where it is a very pertinent for you to check if your tires are wearing evenly. This very tire is wearing very evenly. If it wears unevenly, that shows that there is a problem with the brake, with the tire alignment. You need to align the wheels. That is something which I can teach on this very episode here. However, I'm going to give you clues on that, on how to do it yourself on the next episode, because right now price of things are getting out of control. So you want to learn how to do some certain things yourself. So the tire rotation, don't forget it. And also, if you notice that this side is eating much than this side, that is what we call tire uneven wear. So you need to find out why, and taking the car to alignment shop, which is not expensive, is often going to help you remedy out the situation. Now, before we get out completely out of the engine bay, for cars that are equipped with power steering system that uses fluid, you want to check the fluid. Every fluid within here has to be checked, because when the fluid run out, the power steering pump is going to damage very quickly, and as soon as it damage, you're going to be having a major issue. Then before I leave the engine bay, you also want to check the motor mounts. You have one here, another one here, and somewhere underneath this very air filter box. You want to make sure that they are well in a very good state condition, because if they are not, they are about to create a very huge problem that may tamper or really deal with you financially. So you don't want that. Now we go over to the body side. The body side can often be what is going to be taking you to most paint shop and going to be taking a whole lot of money from you. Now, for Nigerians who really don't care about how shiny the coat of the clear coat of their car is, when you have scratch, they often quickly run here and dip their hand into this very brake fluid here with something like a rag and use and touch it sometimes, something like swim marks or some sort of, a rough brush from a car that you passed by. In doing so, you're going to clean it off, but you actually clean off the clear coat. There is a simple trick. Let's say that you have some sort of a swirl mark like this that doesn't really penetrate deep into the paint. You can use a light, a transparent nail polish to touch that very part, and you're not gonna see it again. Let's say like something like this. All right. Now, another thing you also want to do, if suppose like you have a mark like this that doesn't really cut so deep into the paint, you can use a toothpaste in a buffing machine to be able to buff it yourself, and you save all that money for yourself. Now we come over into the car, inside the car. If you are noticing that your window is not going to roll down completely or roll up, before going to do anything, you want to check the fuse that is underneath the steering column here, because anything within the engine compartment, inside the cabin compartment, there is a fuse somewhere around it. Let's say your blower motor fan is not working. There is a fuse down here which you want to check before you start going to the mechanic. If the glass is not winding up, there is a fuse underneath the glove compartment where you need to check before you start going to the mechanic. Over here, there are problems which I'm going to be teaching you guys here, like if your rear lights is not working, there is a consequences. There is something that's going to do. For most Japanese models, their car is programmed to not to shift the car from here, shift the car out of the park into any gear when your car rear light is not working. That's the safety measures features for most Japanese model. So you can see some scratch here, which means this guy have actually encountered this kind of problem before. So if you're finding that this is not going to be shifting out of the park, there is every tendency that a rear light is bad, and simply replacing the bulb is going to help you with that very problem solved, and you're going to bounce back. Now let's come over here to the infotainment. If suppose your radio is not working, there is a fuse down here underneath the glove compartment where you can be able to check for it. Let's say you remove the battery for your Honda and the key, the radio got into code. You can pull out this guy here, which is the glove compartment, and there is a code down here which you can use. Most often times is 4 or 5, depend on the model. Input it here and you are good to go. Finally, before I go, let's say you try to drive your car or you on your headlight and the headlight is not working. There is a fuse box somewhere here, but the fuse box underneath the glove compartment here is not for the headlight. This is where the fuse box for the headlight is, so you want to check it. Most often times it's often caused by a blown fuse, or let's say like you have your transformator not working, there is either a blown fuse or a bad relay. But most often times, if it's your high beam that is not working and the low beam is working, there are two different distinctive fuses that is responsible for it. However, the relay of this headlight often don't go out quickly. If let's say your horn is not working, the first thing to check before going to a mechanic is a fuse. There is a fuse that controls the horn that is often located inside this very glove compartment, this very fuse box inside a hood here. So you want to check out here. And the very good thing for most Asian model is when you take the fuse box, you flip it like this as it is right now, then every fuse you can see right here, every let's say for this one right now, I want to show you guys how it is. For every corresponding relays that you can see here or fuse here is the one that is showing down there. Like you can see here, you have 30 amp fuse, 30 amp, 30 amp, 30 amp, 60 amp. That fuse they are showing you is this one here. Now we're also seeing this sign here, which is a sign of a radiator fan. That's the first relay on this very fuse box. And you come over here to MG clutch here. This second one here, we have one here, we have one here. That's the magnetic clutch relay over here, which is responsible for the AC compressor. That is a situation where your AC compressor is not working. That's the relay which you should need to check. So every other fuse which you see here, if you're not finding any, if you can be able to locate it very well, type it on the internet and you're going to be finding some helpful assistance that's going to help you to know which one belongs to which one controls which. Before I go, finally, this is a critical situation where you wake up in the morning, you try to crank up your car and the car will not crank, the car would not start. The first thing to look out for is there light showing on the instrument cluster? If there is no light showing in the instrument cluster, that is a typical sign that one of these your battery terminals could be corroded and having a lot of sulfate on it. So you need to clean it up, and you can clean it up using WD-40 or just get a toothbrush, a wire brush, and brush it off. After brushing off the terminals, brush the two terminals off. Most of the times it's not just only sufficient. There are some acid leaks from this very battery here that comes to touch the terminals and contaminate it and seal it off from making the right contact. So in that regard, what you want to do here is remove this terminal, clean them off using the WD-40 or electrical cleaners. When you clean it off, you want to find grease and apply to the terminals and this very part here before putting it back, and that actually prevents the prevent these very terminals from getting corroded again. All right, I hope you find this very helpful. I know definitely this is going to help you keep you away from mechanic for a long time. If you follow what I've taught you in this very video precisely, you're going to be saving a lot of money, and that's going to cut like 80% of your trip back to mechanic. I remain your DIY assistant. I'm going to see you guys on the next episode. Drop below in the comment section which part you will want me to cover in the next episode, because in the next episode is going to be showing you how to do some certain things and what some certain things mean. Like when you have a check engine light, what are things to look out for, how to do them. Bye for now. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you on the next episode.